Alright, thank you guys. Yeah, I talked about this when we were still known as 180, and sometimes even though it's the right thing in the wrong time, it won't happen. Like tech companies and whatever technology, you have to be at the right time, and now is the right time. So yeah, we're really excited about that. Today we don't have a PowerPoint, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a test drive for when we do go to the cinema. Because what we're going to do is, after watching a video, we don't have a video today, the video is me, it's live, but after the video we will have kind of we'll break up into a little bit of a small group, okay? And some amongst you are ready with some discussion, so that we can discuss, we can open up, we can talk a little bit. That also means one good news, which means I won't be talking for so long. Yay! Okay, only I'm excited. Good, all of you like long sermons. We'll prepare longer. Alright, anyway, Joel's been talking about a few things, like just now he was talking about David wrestling with the bear and all that. And today I want to bring you guys to David's story. Turn with me to 1 Samuel chapter 17. We will not wander away from 1 Samuel chapter 17. It's going to be pretty confined to this. 20-something to 30-something verses. Let me give you a little bit of, I'm going to summarize the whole chapter for you. You go home and read the story. This is a very famous story. Famous not only in churches, it is from the Bible actually. If you didn't know that it's from the Bible, so now be informed, it's from the Bible. When you hear people say it's a David versus Goliath situation, this is what they are alluding to. This is what they're shouting back to. The story of David and Goliath comes from the Bible, from 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now, before 1 Samuel chapter 17, what happened was, David is not any particularly spectacular person. Okay? It would be someone you disregard. Someone like, say, in your class, if you're in school, and that quiet person that nobody really talks to, doesn't really stand out in sports, doesn't really do well, exceptionally well in studies. Nothing exceptional about this person. And David was that kind of person. And before chapter 17, earlier on, what happened was the prophet Samuel came to the home of David. His father's home, of course. His father's name is Jesse. And said, God told me, Samuel said, God told me that one of your sons is going to be the future king of Israel. So bring your sons out so that I can see which is the one. And as God's prophet, as God's spokesperson, I'm going to anoint the person as a symbolic act. One of your sons will be anointed as future king of Israel. And so the father, of course, bring the number one first, the pride of the family, big, strong, whatever, that you can think of, is probably the school job, okay? Comes out, and then Samuel looks, and no, not this guy. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then all finished already, the father is like, finish already, no more, habis. Okay? And then Samuel says no. Because God has told me this, that one of your sons will be king of Israel. That means God is not going to make a mistake now. There's certainly one more. And then Jesse was like, oh yeah, there was this one more son. Imagine if you were the son. Imagine if you are David, it's like, your father doesn't even know you existed. Oh yeah, there's one more boy. He's out in the fields. He's taking care of my sheep. Okay? Then Samuel said, go and send someone, bring him in. And when he was brought in, this unimpressive, unspectacular, ordinary boy, shepherd boy, doing an ordinary job that nobody wants to do, really, the 3Ds kind of job. And Samuel anointed King David, future king of Israel. It tells us that God is looking not on the outward appearance, but in the heart. God is looking at our hearts. Now we pick up in 1 Samuel chapter 17, and here's what's happening. So after that incident, there was a war that broke out between the Israelites and the Philistines, which were always the bad guys. If you hear once again, just now you learned something new. David versus Goliath situation. People use it when you want to say this small fry taking on this giant company, something like that. Okay. Now, here's another one. When you call someone a Philistines, means they are bad guy. Okay? So the Philistines, being the Philistines, were being Philistine. Okay? They were being the bad guys. They waged war against Israel, which was supposed to be the good guys. And what happened was, during the olden days, they used swords, spears, pitchfork, whatever it is, stones, and they camped on this steep hill along the valley. Each one on each side. Okay? One on, imagine the Israelites on this side, and the Philistines on the other side. Okay, it's a valley. Now, I'm pretty much a military buff. Okay, if you don't know it, Malaysia doesn't have a fantastic military, not like, I don't know, Singapore, Korea, America, Russia, or something like that. But there's something about that warrior spirit that I like to think I have now. Okay, so I try to watch some of these things. And what happened was that, what the Bible doesn't say is that when you're camped on a steep hill, whoever attacks upward is going to suffer very great losses. Because the whole time when I'm reading this, hey, they got giant already, just attack lah, settle lah. Why did Goliath have to do this? Goliath came out every day to the valley, to the center, because one side Philistines, one side Israelites. Then Goliath will walk out to the center and challenge the Israelites. You send one person, we fight. And then the rest of us don't need to die. We don't need to shed so much blood. Okay? You send one representative. Every day he will do that. Okay? And here was Jesse and David. The father Jesse sent David the son to go and bring bread, food to the brothers who were fighting there. Notice that David is still the boy. He's still the shepherd boy. He's not part of the war. Probably not even old enough to be part of the war. He was a boy. He's described as a boy, not as a man. And that normally means below 12. Something like that. 12 and below. And so he went out there and he heard these Philistines, this giant Goliath, okay, shouting obscenities at the armies of God. And he asked the brothers, who is this dog who defies my God? And so, then David got really upset and he said, no one can talk about that, about my God. And he goes to King Saul. Now here's the other character in the story, King Saul. King Saul, when he was chosen to be king of Israel, you know how they describe King Saul? They describe him as a head above the rest of Israel. Okay? So now, right, can I just ask Andrew, can you stand up? Okay, Zhenxing, can you stand up? Okay. So if this is the regular Israelite, and this will be King Saul, a head above the rest of the average height. Thank you. You can sit down, King Saul and average Israeli person. Okay. Okay. So, hey, if you wanted to fight a giant, a Philistine giant, what should Israelite naturally do? Send King Saul, who was a head above the rest of the Israelites. He wasn't described as another giant, just that he was described as very tall. Okay? And so, instead of King Saul, who took courage and faced these Philistines, this Philistine dog, he was in his own tent. He was hanging out in his tent. He was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to risk my life. I cannot defeat this giant, which is probably true. But he forgot one thing that David did not forget. David remembered it was not about outward appearances. Remember, David was chosen because after all these magnificent specimens, spectacular, manly man, Arnold Schwarzenegger types, and David was still a boy. Now, David didn't get his courage from nowhere. First things first, we always love underdog stories. You watch movies, you don't watch a movie where you're like, I don't know, that's Euros or whatever, okay? Germany wins the Euro. It's like there's no story there. Okay? But I think it's 1998 when Denmark, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, Denmark won the Euros. Was that 1998? Okay, never mind. Okay, in the 1990s, late 90s, what happened was Denmark, a nobody, was actually have already lost the competition. In the group stages, they did not qualify to be in the finals. They were not supposed to go to the competition even, because they didn't make the cut. But Russia was disqualified for some political reasons, and they said, oh, so we have one more space now. Who are we going to ask? The next runner-up happened to be Denmark. Denmark went to the Euros in 1998, and they won it. They won the Euros. Someone who did not qualify became the champion. That's the stuff of movies, you know. You watch movies, you know, now my children, my daughters, they are beginning to watch some more decent movies other than SpongeBob, so I can join in. And you watch Disney HD, right? Okay, all of you were Astro. Disney HD. And they watch stories like, movies like Mighty Ducks. Who are these bunch? Geeks, nerds and everything. And they win the competition. Underdog stories really appeal to us. David and Goliath kind of stories really appeal to us. And whenever, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like our church is like the underdog here. We are kind of a small church, you know. We're not even average size. I can't call this an average size church. People ask me about my church, I'll say, oh, somewhat apologetically, sometimes. I know I shouldn't, but it's like, oh no, we're just a small church, then they ask where, then I'm very happy. Because they ask where, because we're just a small church, but people want to know about us, then I'm very happy to tell them, oh, there, just before NZX, you turn left, but we're on the right side. Like that, okay? So it's like we have our own history to make here. We're on the cusp of a David versus Goliath kind of battle. The fact of it is that renting a cinema costs a lot of money, okay? And we're not exactly a giant in that sense also, but we are able to do it. And what we are doing is, we are only able to last until the end of the year, but what we're doing is, we're stepping out in faith. We're trusting that God is going to step in for us. Even as we face this quote-unquote Goliath, we know that God is going to step in for us. Now, we need to be brave. We need to have faith in these kind of situations and these kind of circumstances. But where do you draw your courage from? What is your source of courage? Let me give you a few. 1, 2, 3, 4 points on where we as a church or where you as a person can draw courage from. Number one is this. You draw courage like David drew courage from smaller past victories. Have you had smaller victories in your life? Maybe the Goliath you are facing is different from mine. I'm pretty sure it is. Maybe it's a career thing. Maybe it's a family thing, relationship thing, financial thing, a health thing. But you draw courage from past victories, smaller victories. Our church has been through some things before. We have had different pastors previously. We have had some smaller victories. But when we do this, this is going to be our next biggest victory. But I say next biggest victory, it's not like the end, you know. Oh, when we get there and we settle into the cinema, that's it. No. The next victory we're going to want to push for, you know, based on, you know, oh, now we can feel the 116, okay? No, it is 116. The halls that we're renting is 116 seaters. Once we have filled up 116 seats consistently, we're going to move to the next hall and the next hall. We're going to move to the hall that's 350. Alright? And it's not the end. This is just a stepping stone to the next thing. And hey, when we outgrow the cinema, we want to move on to the next place. Maybe we buy the cinema, we buy the mall or something like that. I don't know. Where God leads us, where God calls us, we're going to go. So we draw courage from smaller past victories. That's what David did. You read in, can I have someone, okay, Andrew is always very helpful, he's my BFF. Please read for us verse 34 and 35.
But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear, and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him.
Okay, so this isn't David's first fight, you know. David has been in other fights before. Maybe schoolyard fights, fighting with, this one is not exactly schoolyard lah. But lion and bear. This guy is, okay, although unimpressive, pretty epic. He went, you can see his shepherd's heart, that he would go after the lion for the sake of his sheep. And that's why he became a great shepherd to the nation of Israel. But all of us in our lives, as we come to this point, we have had smaller past victories. Okay, let's just think about some really small past victory. Okay, I was one of the things that I vividly remember is this: taking my SPM. Okay, at that point in time, I was a remote student, so I was 18. I went to Chinese school, so I wasn't that smart, unimpressive, and I had to take SPM lah. 18-year-old already, don't quite have a choice, and not exceptionally. I'm not a good student also, and I remember the last week leading up to SPM very vividly because I remember wanting to die. I remember very clearly praying that Jesus, please come this week. Or I'm going to throw myself in front of a car so that I have a broken arm and I can be in the hospital and not go take this and do this. It's like dying, literally to me. Okay? But looking back, all of us have, I wouldn't say all of us, most of us have taken SPM or some kind of exam in our life. And as you're looking back, wait a minute, it's not that bad. Okay? It really wasn't. No one would have died. It wasn't so dramatic. But being 18-year-old, we are a little bit over dramatic sometimes. I wanted to die. I prayed that I didn't really want to die, but I prayed that Jesus would come. How many of you prayed that before? Seriously? Okay? I'm not the only one, okay? Okay, confession is good for the soul. So I prayed, Jesus, come up, please, so that's. But now that I look back on it, it's a source of strength. It's something that I've been through. I know I can do it. When I'm in college, it's nowhere near as pressurizing. But then college projects or assignments are due or exams are coming up. You know that you've done that before. You have survived it. Jesus didn't come again. You didn't die. And you should be fine now. You have that confidence because you've had these smaller battles that you have won. And in our lives, it's the same way. Before you start on the huge things in life, sometimes God will call you to take a step of faith, yes, but normally God has all these smaller steps that have led you to this point that you can look back on. That's why also it's important that you remember these smaller victories through testimonies. Testify about it. Tell your friends, because they might be encouraged about it. Hey, this guy can survive SPM. I think I'll be fine. Okay? And then maybe your friend might remind you also, you remember last time you've been through this and you had this health scare and God delivered you and God saved you, God healed you. God's going to do the same for you. He can do the same for you again. Alright? So draw courage from smaller past victories. Second thing is this. We don't only draw courage from smaller past victories, but we draw courage from a spiritual perspective that God has given us. We see things through God's eyes. Okay, someone else can help me read verse 36 and 37. Real quick. Okay, Derek, thanks for volunteering. Derek? Lee?
I've done this to both lions and bears, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine. 2, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine.
Alright. And then Saul said? Yeah.
Then Saul, and Saul finally consented, alright, go ahead, and may the Lord be with you.
Okay. No, may the Lord, not the force. Okay. So we have to begin to see things not only through our perspective. Sometimes, being a parent, we see this a lot. My daughter would bring me this Mission Impossible thing to do, okay? And it's like going to the moon for her. Okay? But then she gave it to me, and I become a hero. And then a hero comes along. I open the sweet wrapper for her. Okay? There's a difference in perspective, For them, that is like the security, If daddy, mommy, or an adult doesn't open up, there's no way they can open it, Absolutely no way. It's impossible. But then, you give it to someone who's an adult, it's like, you don't think twice about it. And sometimes, that is the way that we see things. We are like these children, and God is like our Father, and there's so many things that we see through our eyes that is impossible to us. This is impossible. How can we ever afford to have church in a cinema? I keep coming back to that because we are 2 weeks away. After this Sunday, 2 more Sundays, and then the third Sunday will be there, okay? And I'm super excited about it, so stoked about it. And it's impossible for us. But with God, all things are possible. God can do it. It's for Him, it's not even a thing, It's like, done. Alright? It's like, yes, it's like a sweet wrapper. It's a sweet wrapper situation. And but the thing is, we need to learn to see things God's ways. Sometimes we can't see it. Then we have to trust Him. But we have seen Him work in our lives in impossible situations. We continue to trust Him that we can draw courage, we can take courage from that. And we can try crazy things, not because of who we are. It's nothing to do with us. The only thing that we did is this. God, you said right? Yes, I go. If God has said it, then we just respond by saying yes. That's all we do. That's the only part. Our part is to say yes to God when He calls. And we believe as a church, God has called us to do certain things. And this very next step is pretty obvious right now. And we're going to do it. But apply this to your own lives as well. Has God called you to do something that might seem very impossible to you? I tell you, like maybe Kevin and Lillian, if you ask them 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that they will be flying off from Malaysia one day, going to Bangladesh, Korea, North Korea, South Korea, and all these other countries, do you think they would believe it at that point? Okay, FYI, they're shaking their heads. No, they don't think so. Okay? But God sees things differently.
Amen.
And sometimes the problem with us is that we want God, we tell God this, God, we pray, and then we've heard God's voice, and we say, God, show us what you want us to do. Then God shows us the next step. Okay? Then we are here. We just need to take the next step. But we can't take the next step. We're not able to. We say, God, show me some more. I want to know what will happen in the end. I want to know what will happen 30 years later, at the end of my life. What will I see? What is the fruit? What's the sacrifice that I have to make? Then we want God to show us everything before we will take the next step. That number one step even. But God oftentimes doesn't lead us that way. In Psalms it says, your word is a lamp unto my feet, not a headlamp to the end of the street. It's a lamp to your feet. That lamp, that lantern only shines this far. It only shows us, oftentimes it only shows us enough where we need to step next. And then as you take the next step, as you move, you can see the next step, and then you take that next step, and the next step. We don't need to know every step, but we need to know our next step. We know our next move. Okay? And God is the one who knows the whole picture. Sometimes we can seek Him for that as well. We can draw courage knowing that He is faithful. He's going to lead us through. So draw courage from past victories. Draw courage from spiritual perspective, from a godly perspective. And thirdly is this. We draw courage from the skills God has given us. Let's turn to verse 39 and 40 now. Can someone volunteer? Okay, Joel.
David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. And David said to Saul, I cannot go with this, for I have not tested them. So David took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine.
Alright, so what happened as the story progresses? I didn't tell the whole story because I don't give you any spoilers. Okay? But what happened was, so David said, I want to fight this guy, I want to kill this guy who defies my God. I want to defend my God's honor and name. Okay? And so he goes to, people send him to the king who's sitting comfortably in his air-conditioned tent, hanging out, chilling. And King Saul there says, okay, so you want to be the guy that dies basically. Okay, fine. But I want to give you kind of a fighting chance, quote unquote, because it isn't even a fighting chance. David was probably like 5 feet boy. And so King Saul said, you know what? King Saul, head above the other Israelites, say, take my sword, my armor, my best, everything, my boots, my everything, just the best, or whatever you need, just take it. He put it on David, and then David probably looked like, those gangsters wear oversized, baggy clothes one. Nowadays gangsters don't look like that. The 1990s punya gangsters. Okay, and David said, no, I can't, I do, this is not mine. I've never tried it before. I don't know how to do this. Instead, David went down to the river and chose 5 smooth stones. Okay, that was what he knew. Okay, and what he knew was that he knew how to use the sling. I imagine that as David was shepherding during the days when it's not so busy, not so many customers, not so many lions or bears, what you'll be doing is you're out in the field, there's nothing there but stones, and you happen to have a sling in your pocket. What you do is target practice. So I imagine that he'll be sitting, he'll collect a pile of stones, and then there'll be a tree there, and he's gonna sling and whack the tree, pop, 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 and then the bark. After a while, after many months, you see that there's the bark there no more already, smooth already. That's what I imagine David would be doing. Okay, he didn't try to be someone else. He didn't try to be King Saul. He was not a head above the rest. He was 5 feet probably, maybe less. But he was this person, he was a shepherd. He had this skill, he had this talent that he knew worked for him. And now he's going to use that. We can draw courage from the same skills that God has given to us. Each and every one of us have a special skill set, special talent that God has given to us. It's not how I overcome this giant in my life will not be the same way that you overcome that giant in your life. We go about it differently. Some might bulldoze through it, some might go around it, go over it, whatever it is. But it's not going to be the same. But know this for sure. You can take courage in this, that God has given you what you need. The right skills, the right talent to overcome this giant that you are facing now. Think about your own lives. What is that giant? What has God given to you? What have you always used that has shown you and given you smaller past victories? And God's going to use that to give you this giant as well. Okay? Now, there's also an element of exercise, of practice. Okay? Imagine with me, okay, that there's the, every time there's kind of like, just imagine, okay, there's an invisible line right down the center here. There's this training ground that you have in your life. Okay? And then this is the battleground where you go out to face the giants. But every time you're in this training ground, you need to train. David was not just doing nothing. It wasn't an inspired, lucky shot, He was practicing. He knew what he was going for. And this target was big enough that he felt he cannot miss. Okay? The giant, the bigger they are, harder they fall. So, in his training ground, he was doing that. He was doing the training. He was doing the practice. Okay, I'm going to ask. Okay, Edro, good friend, come. Go to the training ground. Okay, decide. Okay, do training. Give me 5 push-ups. Get down, give me 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh. Okay, 5. Now you go out. You feel better. You feel stronger, and then you face your giants. Small giant first. Okay, so you feel stronger. Okay. Then when you come back. Now he has to train again. Give me 5 sit-ups. Oh, Joel's spotting it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, go to the battleground.
Fight a bear.
Wrestle a bear. Can do some more. No, you can't. Okay, thanks. So, hey, in our lives, in our faith as well, in our courage, in boldness, we have this training around. You need to train your faith. It's like a muscle. Okay? If you don't, you know what happened? You can ask Afro And I've seen it also. My brother, he's torn a ligament in his left knee. Okay? And what happened was that he had to have surgery, and for 3 months, he can't use his leg. He was walking around in crutches. Okay? And what happened was, his muscles went into atrophy. Okay? And basically, at the end of that 3 months, where he cannot use his leg looked like my arm. Okay? My arm is not that big, okay? I don't have giant Arnold Schwarzenegger arms, okay? But when he didn't use his leg, that's what happened. That's what happened when you don't use and don't exercise your faith. And then you have this chicken leg muscle, like the size of someone's arm, and then you want to come here and you want to fight your battles in the battleground, and you expect to win? We must know that God has given us also a training ground where we need to train. This is where you do your sit-ups, your push-ups, you exercise that faith, you make it happen. So that when it comes time for battle, you're ready. It's time to face the giant, you're ready here. And then you go back, oh, you've defeated Goliath. Train, because there's the next one coming up. In David's life as well, it was not just Goliath. After Goliath, he fell many other giants as well. He became a giant slayer in that sense. And you know what? Giant killers are never giant killers alone. If you are a giant killer, the people around you becomes a giant killer as well. Later on, you see throughout his life, King David, his mighty men were all known to be giant killers. They had the formula down. They knew what they need to do, how many reps of this, how many reps of that. They've done their training, and then they head out and they're ready for it. In the same way, for our church, we have a training ground. Look like, probably looks something like this. A regular Sunday where we don't have much going on. It's a Raya weekend. Everyone else is having, their cheat day. Meanwhile, you are here. You're doing your training. You're doing your push-ups. You're receiving, you're taking nourishment. You're building that muscle. You're pumping it up. And when day comes, when you need it, when you're called into action, you're ready. You're ready to go. It's no problem. So remember that if you want success in the battleground, you need to spend time in the training ground. Spend time in the Word of God. Spend time in prayer. Draw courage from these skills that God has given to you as well. So number 1 is this. Draw courage from smaller past victories. Number 2 is draw courage from a godly perspective. Number 3 is draw courage from skills and talents that God has given to us. And number 4, the last one is this. We draw courage from the supernatural resources that God has given to us. Okay, last one. Can someone read verse 45 to 47?
Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with the sword, with the spear, and with the javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God of Israel. That all this assembly shall know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord, and He will give you into our hands."
Did you hear that? This is not the war that we are in. It's not something with spears and swords. It is a spiritual battle that we are waging. Our weapons for warfare are not carnal. Alright? It's not wise advice that you receive, but it's knowing who you come, Now there's a viral video about that half-drunk guy. No, not a video, it's a picture. Who keep asking, do you know who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Okay? Not telling you guys to be drunk, but I'm telling you guys to know who you are. Do you know who you represent? When you step into a room and God calls you to this place, and I don't know about you guys, sometimes social situations, turning up for social stuff, can be a little bit awkward. Okay, work or whatever, and then you're the only person, and maybe your teammates haven't arrived, you're the first one to arrive. But you step into the room, do you know who you are? You don't come in the name of Unilever or whatever company it is. know that when you step into the battleground, you come in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel. Know that as you step into your workplace, you don't step in as a defeated person because you go to the church that is called Victory Church. Our God is a God not of defeat. Yes, He died on the cross, but 3 days later He rose in victory. As you step into your workplace, into this your family member's house, maybe there's some hostility and animosity in that place, but you step in not as someone who is defeated, but you step in because you know you come in the name of the Lord of hosts. You come with the blessing. You come with the authority. Do you know that you have on you the name of Christ, the blood of Christ? That when you step into certain situations that God has called you into, there will never be defeat. It will only be victory. I seldom say things like this where it's exclusive. It's only going to be victory. There's no defeat. Because I know that is what God has promised us. We will be overcomers. Alright? And this is no different. Whatever situation you are in, if you find yourself following God step by step, the light is shown here, you take the next step, and you come up with this obstacle, and it's like this giant obstacle that you cannot defeat. Know that you didn't get yourself stuck in this situation. Know that God didn't put you in this situation to have you be stuck there forever. But God has put you there so that you can overcome. Whatever situation, whatever giant you are facing, you will overcome. God has promised us victory. Draw courage. Know that it is not just because of your skills, just because of what you can do, but know that it is your identity, that you are coming in the name of the Lord of hosts. Now Goliath came to attack with iron weapons, but David attacked with iron heart faith. And that's what we need. We need to have that kind of steely faith and grit that we have already developed in our training ground. Okay? If you have this mushy faith that is pushed around, just swaying here and there, you never get anything done. That's in James chapter 1. If you are just one day late like this, one day like that, like this, like that, and you can't decide what you are, and God will never answer any prayers also. But you need to have the faith, that single-mindedness.
That's right.
Not in yourself.
Yeah.
Not in yourself,
Amen.
but in the name of God.
Amen.
Knowing who
Amen.
is behind you.
That's right.
David stepped out when Saul sat back. Alright? And let me tell you this, okay? Not only was King Saul a head above the rest of the Israelites, he was from the tribe of Benjamin. And if you study the Bible a little bit more, even from within the Bible, you will know that there's people from King David was not from the tribe of Benjamin. He was from the tribe of Judah. And if you study the Bible, you will know that the people from the tribe of Benjamin are known to be warriors, and their weapon of choice is, take one guess, it's a sling. Alright? It was like this situation was custom made to fit Saul. It was his skill set. He was perfect man for the job. He was head above the rest. Used what to defeat Goliath? Slingshot. Favorite weapon. What they would do in battles would be, okay, maybe the tribe that is expert in sword one go in front, okay, or spears behind the sword a little bit. Then behind all that first two lines of defense, of attack or war or whatever, would be the Benjamites with their slings. Rock in the pouch, take out sling, got range mark, so sling far away. Okay, and that was what, it's like, that was King Saul's destiny to fulfill, And yet King Saul went down as a coward, as a chicken. But King David rose and fulfilled his destiny. After this battle, as they entered Jerusalem again, they sang, King Saul slain his thousands, but David slain his 10,000s. Let us never be caught in a situation where our destiny is right in front of us. It might come in the form of a giant, of a problem, of an obstacle, but let us never be found to have not done anything. I tell you what is going to happen as we move to the cinema. Nobody's ever going to say, oh, we didn't try anything. That's why you're still a small church. After the whole cinema saga, We might come back here, and we might have the same number of people, but no one can say that we never tried. Okay? But that being said, I doubt that will be the situation. I don't think that as we move out from this place, we'll be able to fit in. And today's Raya weekend, and we kind of have it half full already. On a normal weekend, we're packed.
Yep.
Right? So guys, these are the 4 things. Take courage, man, even as we are stepping out. Our church is going through this season where we are stepping out in courage. And chances are, very often, if you are part of this church family here, you might be facing a certain situation in your own life as well that is similar to the church. It's not Bible thing, but so often in my life, that's what I experienced. Whatever is going on in the church almost directly translates into my life. When the church experiences breakthrough, it happens, about the same time as your own lives. And we are in a season where the church is taking a step of courage, a step of faith. And I think that many of you might be in the same season where you need to take a step of faith, to step out. It might not be the whole journey, you might not have it all planned out, but you know the next step and you need to take it. Alright? So, these are the 4 things, guys. Although King Saul was custom made for this, David was the one who stepped up because he drew courage from these 4 different places. Okay, this is not exhaustive. Maybe you can find other things. But today, I just want to give you these 4 points, okay? Which is to draw courage from your smaller past victories. Draw courage from having a godly perspective. Draw courage from your talents and skills that God has given to you. And draw courage from supernatural resources from God. Before we end today, we're going to go into a little bit of discussion. We're going to give you guys 20 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to split into 4 groups. And Andrew is ready, Karen is ready, and I say that Joel is ready now. I didn't tell Joel to be ready. Okay? But let's have Joel, maybe you can go to the back. Yeah. And then I think we can get into a group of about 7 people. And we're going to go through some discussion questions. We want to get to know you better. And this is also a practice run. This is our training ground right now.
Yeah.
Training ground, we're going to get ready to do this in the cinema as well. And maybe Pastor Kevin, you can take one group, then I can chill out. Me, yeah. Okay lah. Okay, we can stand up now. So we move around. Andrew, Karine, Joel. If there's about 7 in a group, that'll be good. Less or more. And see whether we need one more group or not. The group leaders know what to do, and what I'm going to do also is I'm going to share the link, and you guys can view the link. I'm going to put it on our Facebook page, so you guys, anyone can access it. You can go to our Facebook page and check out the discussion guide there. Yeah, now's the time where you can start to talk to one another. If you don't know your group members, can introduce yourselves first. Get to know one another.